going to win the great state of Michigan, and we're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
Showing the whole nation just how tough you are. Michigan tough.
It doesn't have to do with being a Republican or a Democrat. I just want it to be fair and my voice to count.
It will take longer to count because of the security measures we have in place to verify the accuracy of ballots.
That might mean that we don't really know who the winner is in Michigan until possibly several days after the election.
Where there are open carry laws, where people will approach voters and attempt to intimidate them, I think that's a very legitimate concern at this point.
While we won't be visible at polling stations, we will be ready to respond to problems if they are reported.
I believe partisan politics has broken this nation. We need to bring leadership to bear that is more focused on people than politics.
I'm constantly pounding on the table for this administration to put together a comprehensive national strategy, something that they have failed at doing, and we're still paying the price here.
Fred Upton has had 17 tries to get this right. I'm asking for one shot.
I have a record of getting things done, of working with both sides of the aisle.
And thanks for joining us on News Channel 3 Live at noon. I'm Kirk Mason.
And I'm Laura Painter. A long and grueling campaign reaches its climax today, but maybe not its end.
While millions of voters have already cast a ballot, millions more are heading to the polls today to decide if President Trump will have 4 more years in the White House or if former Vice President Joe Biden will take over. It's unclear if we'll know the winner tonight, as some states could take days to count all the ballots. In a moment, News Channel 3's Hannah Knowles will explain why that could be the case in Michigan.
And we've got team coverage this election day as polls are open right now in our area. Lexi Petrovich and Trisha McCauley both are witnessing the precautions in place as COVID-19 cases rise, and more recently, the concern of voter intimidation. We'll get to them in just minutes, but first we want to take a live look outside over sunny, gorgeous downtown Kalamazoo on this Tuesday, Election Day. Jeff, not a cloud in the sky. It's gorgeous.
It really is gorgeous. Laura, good afternoon. A lot of us in the 50s right now. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll start you off by taking you to South Haven, where we've got 2 to 5 footers. They're in play through the afternoon, tomorrow, and potentially all the way into Thursday. Ada still offshore of Nicaragua, distance from being onshore about 20 miles. Make no mistake about it, this is a severe hurricane. We're talking about catastrophic flash flooding, 15 to 35 inches worth of rain. How about a 14 to 21-foot storm surge? Only parts of the problems. Let's take you back to home with, sun-filled skies here, 58 at 2, 60 at 5 with your election afternoon fastcast. Southwest winds 15 to 25 miles per hour. Right now, 57 in Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, 55 in South Haven. Tomorrow morning, we'll wake up in the middle and the upper 40s. When the 70s arrive in West Michigan, that's coming up at 12:20.
We already have over 3 million ballots have been cast. It's going to take us a little while to count, and that's why I think it's really important that we all prepare to be patient and make sure that we get this right.
Michigan making history for how many absentee ballots have been received for this election.
News Channel 3's Hannah Knowles joins us live in the studio this afternoon with how the increase in absentee voting could affect how soon we know the winners.
So far, the state's received more than 3.1 million absentee ballots for today's general election, and that number will continue to change throughout the day. It's important to remember that today is the last day to cast votes, but it's not the last day votes will be counted. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson warning voters this afternoon to shut out any misinformation they might hear about election results. Leading up to today, Benson's office sent out absentee ballot applications to all of the state's 7.7 million qualified voters. Benson says she's hopeful 90 to 95% of Michigan absentee ballots will be returned by the time polls close tonight at 8. If clerks receive a ballot after closing time, Benson says it will not be counted.
Block out the noise. You're going to hear a lot of it over the next 24 to 48 hours. Know that your election administrators all across the state are confidently, methodically, securely tabulating every vote to ensure that at the end of the full tabulation, everyone can feel confident that regardless of who wins or loses, the results are an accurate reflection of the will of the people.
County, 88,000 absentee ballots were requested, just over 60,000 received. Ballots were issued 19 in over 18,000 issued at last check. 16,000 have now been returned, and in Calhoun County, roughly 35,000 absentee ballots were issued. 30,741 now returned. Benson says she wants to remind voters that a candidate does not declare victory. If you voted absentee, she's encouraging voters to track their ballot to make sure it's been received. Kirk and Laura, back to you.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Control of the Senate is at stake. Republicans fighting to retain their majority against a surge of Democratic challengers across the vast political map in states once considered long shots for Democrats. It's the opposite scenario playing out right here in Michigan for one high-stakes race. Combat veteran and Republican John James looking to unseat Democratic Senator Gary Peters. Peters says he's committed to leading Michigan's economic recovery, helping veterans and the environment. James says he's a bipartisan alternative to the gridlock happening in Washington. Republicans are hoping to keep their majority in the Senate. 35 seats are up for grabs tonight.
In the final hours of the 2020 election, President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden are making their final push to rally their supporters. You can see right here behind me, President Trump spending his final night on the campaign in Grand Rapids, just as he did 4 years ago. Right now, former Vice President Joe Biden visiting home in Scranton, Pennsylvania, taking a few minutes to visit his son Beau's gravesite. Polls are now open across the country, and the people of Dixville Notch, New Hampshire, already declared their winner. Polls in the tiny township opened midnight Tuesday, and all 5 votes went to Biden. Not to be outdone, President Trump received his first victory in the early hours Tuesday with the nearby township of Millsfield declaring him the winner 16-5. And News Channel 3 is following all key races from presidential to the local races that impact you. Join us tonight at 7. We'll be breaking into CBS coverage with updates on local races. Have your ticker running across the bottom of the screen when polls close, and we'll have reporters live across the state at 11. You can also follow updates throughout the day and night on our website, WWMT.com, and our News Channel 3 Facebook and Twitter pages.
But I want to give you a live look over the White House, where there's an added layer of protection in place right now on this election day. Police are preparing for possible protests and unrest, particularly if there's no clear winner as of tonight. Well, here's a better look at the non-scalable fence that's been placed around the entire perimeter of the White House. This is the same kind of fencing that was put up over the summer during protests in Washington, D.C. Many businesses near the White House have already boarded doors and windows, fearing civil unrest.
A Jewish cemetery in West Michigan is vandalized with pro-Trump messages. Numerous headstones were spray painted in red paint with Trump and MAGA spelled out at the Havas Israel Cemetery in Grand Rapids. It happened just hours before President Trump held a rally in the city. The Michigan Democratic Jewish Caucus says the intimidating messages have failed and that the Grand Rapids Jewish community will not cower to this, quote, vile attack. Election officials say they want to make sure every voter has the chance to fill out a ballot at the polls safely. Michigan Secretary of State is now calling for those caught intimidating voters to be prosecuted.
News Channel 3's Tricia McCauley joining us live at a polling location in Kalamazoo to tell us what election officials are doing to prevent voter intimidation at the polls.
Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety Chief Vernon Coakley says officers will not be visible at the polls, but they will be close by and on standby in case anything comes up. He says voter intimidation will not be tolerated, and officers are prepared to act quickly. Coakley says it's up to poll workers at each precinct to notify KDPS of a voter intimidation or anything else going on. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson says voter intimidation at the polls is illegal, and those who do will be charged and prosecuted. She says everyone has the right to vote freely and safely. Benson says the Michigan Supreme Court did not respond to her request to prohibit open carry of firearms at the polls on Election Day. However, guns are not allowed at schools and churches, where some Kalamazoo polling places are being held. She says if Michiganders choose to carry at the polls, they cannot intimidate other voters. Now, another thing to remind voters of as they come to the polls, that they're not allowed to wear any clothing, hats, or buttons related to any candidates or parties. This is not a new rule. It's been in effect for decades, and poll workers say they will ask voters to remove or cover any election materials that they do wear. Live in Kalamazoo, Tricia McCauley, News Channel 3.
News Channel 3's Lexi Petrovich also at a polling location right now, and she's actually visited several precincts this morning.
And Lexi, you have details on the COVID-19 safety precautions being taken for those who plan to vote in person today.
Yeah, Kirk and Laura, voters can expect to see many safety precautions being implemented at various polling locations across the state today. First and foremost, the poll workers are very well equipped with personal protective equipment. That includes face coverings as well as gloves for some. And you'll also see many signs like this all throughout different polling locations that serve as reminders for voters as they come on in of things to keep in mind before they end up voting today. There's also a lot of different sanitizing items such as hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes. You can even see on the ground arrows pointing in directions of which way you should walk and enter as well as exits. There is a limitation on that person-to-person contact. And lastly, as far as the lines go, they have been pretty consistent in the morning. However, it has quieted down for now, but in the morning it was the busiest time that we saw throughout the day. They do expect it to get a little busier around lunchtime as well as dinner time. Reporting live in Kalamazoo, Lexi Petrovich, News Channel 3.
Alexi, thank you very much. We are continuing our campaign 2020 coverage. We break down the proposals all Michigan voters get a chance to weigh in on. Plus, several people are now in custody following a deadly terror attack. What we know so far about the shooter.
Laura, thank you very much. Some record highs set to be challenged. We're going to tell you when in your 7-day forecast. And right now, we're going to enjoy some beautiful sunshine, Bangor style, all thanks to Horizon Broadband. And you're watching News Channel 3 live at noon.
He claims his stepdaughter is rude. Thank you for turning to News Channel 3 at noon. The news continues right now.
Welcome back to News Channel 3 live at noon. I'm Laura Painter. Polls are now open here in West Michigan. And for those of you who still need to vote, Kirk Mason is in the studio to alert you about what you could see on the ballot.
Laura, there are two measures every Michigan voter will get to weigh in on today. First, there's Proposal 1. It would make changes to how revenue in the state's park-related funds can be spent. A yes vote supports making changes to how revenue in the state's park-related funds can be spent. This includes making projects to renovate recreational facilities eligible for grants and removing the cap on the size of the Natural Resources Trust Fund. A no vote simply opposes these changes and keeps everything the way it is. Next is Proposal 2. It would amend the Michigan Constitution to protect electronic data and communications in the same way the law protects one's home and papers from unreasonable search and seizure. A yes vote supports requiring a search warrant to access a person's electronic data and electronic communications.
Kalamazoo area residents are voting on a housing proposal. The County Public Housing Commission is asking voters to renew and expand funding to build new affordable housing, renovate existing properties, and provide support services. The millage would be in place for 8 years and raise more than $6 million. For someone with a house with a market value of about $100,000, the cost will be about $38 a year or about a dime a day. Police in Austria have now arrested several people linked to a deadly terror attack overnight. Authorities say a 20-year-old Islamic extremist armed with an automatic rifle and a fake explosive vest rampaged through a Vienna nightlife district hours ahead of a coronavirus lockdown. 4 people are dead, 2 men and 2 women, and 22 others are hurt, some in critical condition. Police killed the shooter. Authorities say the suspect has a previous terror conviction. As everyone prepares for Election Day, gun shops are seeing sales soar. Shop owners in Las Vegas say their shelves are being wiped out. We hear from 2 gun shop owners. One says customers are buying more than 1 gun. Both owners say that they've seen a lot of first-time buyers. Both say since they're not located downtown or on the Strip of Las Vegas, they're not as concerned. An update on a controversial voting decision in Houston, Texas. A federal court dismisses a call to void more than 127,000 votes in Harris County. Harris County ran 10 drive-through sites to give all voters a safer option during the pandemic. Republicans moved to have the votes invalidated, but a court of appeals has denied the motion. There's only 1 drive-through voting location open today throughout in Houston.
As voters decide who will lead the country through the long-fought battle against COVID-19, the U.S. averaging more than 80,000 new cases per day. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. 14 states had record-setting hospitalizations last week. There's also been an increase in children's cases. Some medical experts warn if this upward trend doesn't reverse soon, mandatory lockdowns may become necessary. Health officials say COVID-19 isn't going away regardless of who wins the presidential election, and individuals can play a big role in fighting the pandemic. Right now, Hurricane Eta inching closer to Nicaragua's Caribbean coast in what experts say could be a catastrophic landfall. A Category 4 hurricane could bring with it devastating 145-mile-per-hour winds and 1 to 3 feet of rain. Right now, some rivers are already overflowing across Central America. Days of rain are in the forecast. People living in at-risk areas are scrambling to leave, but experts say few buildings in the remote area are built strong enough to survive the storm.
Kirk, thank you very much. We have sunshine in Holland, thanks to the city of Holland, as we look out over 8th Street on this early Tuesday afternoon. So as we look back to Eta, we're worried about a storm surge here upwards of 14 to 21 feet, or the second or third story of buildings. And you'll notice during the day tomorrow, Nicaragua. On Thursday, it'll be in Honduras, and then hopefully weakening to a tropical depression during that time. It's actually going to make a little bit of a loop and then get back out over the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico. It could turn into a brand new named storm, the 29th named storm, sometime over the weekend. Yes, we're talking about new territory here. We've got a record for how many named storms we've seen so far this season. That's at 28, the number of hurricanes that we've seen in this tropical storm season. How about this? 12 so far. That record is 15. Weekend, well, we're flirting with record territory. 70 on Saturday, the record 75. 72 on Sunday, the record 71 from 1931. Those records situated right here in Kalamazoo. Tomorrow morning, back to work and back to school, middle and upper 40s, broad, uninterrupted sunshine, much like today. The end result will be more mid-60s. By the way, it'll also be breezy. How about into Wednesday night and early Thursday? Another relatively mild night. There is a palpable increase in cloud cover Thursday, so that's really one hitch in what is otherwise going to be a lovely day. We now see our next chance for rain. Here's Monday, which could potentially be our 4th day of 70s in a row, and it looks like rain would arrive late Monday and into Tuesday. Let's check out our Live Eye Camera Network. On this early Tuesday afternoon, we cannot even find a cloud in the sky in Allegan. I mean, it's just absolutely perfect. So good to be outside. Maybe you can even crack the windows just a little bit. It's 57 in Allegan and Kalamazoo and Three Rivers and South Haven and Grand Rapids. Benton Harbor, I see you. You're right there. Okay, here is your forecast. On our way to 62. Gorgeous, no doubt. That's too warmer than prior thinking. Winds do relax tonight, then they ramp back up again tomorrow. Maple Auto Group 7-day forecast. Well, we've got that 68 on Friday, which I guess is okay. And now we've got 272s, Kirk and Laura, Sunday and Monday. So if you drew it up, I'm not sure you could draw it up any better than this.
You know, it's a little conflicting. We like it. So you got the sunglasses, the shorts, the pumpkin spice latte,
sure.
Flannel potentially. We're not complaining, though.
Yeah, we're not complaining. Just keep it coming.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not too much pressure, is it?
No, sir, never.
We'll enjoy it while it lasts. Thank you, Jeff. Well, Apple reporting a problem with some AirPods. What the trouble sounds like, and who is footing the bill to fix the issue? And maybe robots won't take all of our jobs after all. What the world's largest retailer found when letting them pinch hit for humans because of COVID.
$6,400.
If your Apple AirPod isn't working properly, you may be able to get it fixed for free. Apple says some of the AirPod Pro devices have sound issues. Those issues include cracking or static noise. The affected AirPods were made before October this year. The replacement program covers an AirPod for 2 years after it was sold. Walmart's finding out humans may make better workers than robots. We knew that, right?
I was going to say, we thought so. Walmart is firing its fleet of robots that it was testing at about 500 stores. You're going to see them here in this video. They're pretty big. The robots were going around the store, checking inventory as sidekicks to the human employees, helping them pull online orders, which have gone up during the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, it turns out Walmart decided it was just easier to have humans do the job, but some robots aren't out of the job. Walmart is keeping its cleaning robots that work alone.
Those are actually some layoffs we're happy to report on.
Exactly.
Lay off those robots.
Absolutely. Let's take you live outside over downtown Battle Creek if we can. Live at noon continues.
Democracy Alive.
Time for a final look at your Maple Auto Group 7-day forecast. A lot of problems here in the forecast, Kirk and Laura. We've got sun today and tomorrow. I guess we'll be able to sort of wade through it. 62 later today, 66 tomorrow. A little bit of a cloud cover increase for Thursday, but still 65 is like remarkable. We should be in the mid-50s. Friday, we're going to be in the conversation of 70, and then 70 or 70 plus over the weekend. A couple things to reference here. Waves could be as big as 5 feet at the lakeshore over each of the next 3 days, so that's important. But listen, other than that,
I mean, the struggle is real, Jeff. I mean, this forecast, too many sun icons.
Yeah.
Just too difficult.
Would you say May, even early June, does that look like? I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
At the very least, late September, early October.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, we love it. Keep it coming. Thanks for joining us live at noon.
Yep, and here's a live look outside at a polling center. Remember, today is Election Day. Get out there and vote, and also enjoy the sunshine. And stay with us throughout the day. Our website is WWMT.com.